did you know goldenrod makes an excellent tea?
Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday, dear Aaron.
Me. You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity.
Or what's inside. You suck. Finally, we're going to reveal the... Hey everybody, welcome back to Tomic's veteran of the comic book industry for 30 years I'm a writer, I'm an artist, and this sucks.
Stew, and her name is Minerva. Ouch. She's the flower of the flower. Ouch.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Hi. Hey, I'm Aaron. It's Aaron Live. And it's I'm just like washed out. There's hardly any lights on in here. I don't know. What happens if I turn this off? I didn't do much, did it? Maybe if I sit way back here. Hello, everyone. I'll be washed out. I got to get like a lighting panel that has like warm lighting coming on it, soft warm lighting, so I don't look like the living dead. I mean, I'm not exactly tan, but I'm not as ghostly as I look. You can notice that I'm wearing the beanie now, and I'm triple layered. It's just getting cold, and it's not that cold. But the problem is we have a doggy door downstairs, and we keep that doggy door open. I mean, there's a flap there, but a lot of cold air can get in. So this house gets a little bit chilly. And once I get cold, I don't get warmed up till the spring. So even though it could be like a nice 60 degrees outside, I'm still freezing when it was like, 40 degrees last night. So I just bundle up, and I'll be wearing like multi-layers probably till like, April. So that's just how it goes. Hey, so this is Aaron Live, and it is November 2nd. If you can freaking believe that. It's November 2nd. We're like less than 2 months away from Christmas. It's insane. Insanity, I tell you. Anyway, boy, have I got a show for you. Mike Barron's joining us, along with Pat Broderick will also be joining us. Two guys that have been in the industry longer than me, which I'm quite grateful for. There's actually somebody that I can talk to that's been in this industry longer than me. I got to go. Graham Nolan has too. So, and I guess, I don't know, Ron Garney. I don't know. Me and Ron probably came in about the same time. He probably predates me as well. But anyway, I'm just splitting hairs. There's, so anyway, I've got those gentlemen coming on. They're going to be talking about Bronze Star 2. We're going to look at some Frank Miller covers. We're going to do a deep dive into my flat files, which are not only going to show you some artwork, but it's going to be stuff that sort of relates to Barbaric Adventures, which is my next project that we'll be launching right after the new year. So, and then we'll give you a Wraith of God 3 update here very shortly on what's going on with that book, as I patiently wait for the printer to quit finding mistakes that I have to go back in and fix. It drives me nuts. I mean, it's my fault, but still. Let's see who's here, shall we? Quorum is here. NPC Oasis, Gemini Dragon, Sequential Treasures. James is here. He says it's Miller time. I don't think he might be sitting at home drinking a Miller. I don't know, though. This is interesting. Inconsequential Artist says, consider that Evil Nora spelled backwards is Aaron Live. Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable, circa 1992. Well, Aaron has 2 A's, so that just throws that out the window. And I doubt very much that Bill Cosby said that at any time in the Cosby Show. I'm just guessing that just never happened. Unhinged is here. Let's see. There's Randy Howell promoting Bronze Star 2. That's great. I don't have an active campaign, so I can't really promote that. All I can do is promote my website, which has tons of good stuff on it. That's just simply aaronlopresti.com. Link is in the description of the video, of course. Grey Wolf is here. There's Glitch from across the pond. Pantheon joining us. What do we got here? Pastmaster Dan. Eric N. Boyd. Thanks for joining us, Eric. Bretsky the Great. Best Age Comics is here. Marcus Killer Group, purveyor of all things pop culture knowledge. There's Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is almost always here. Matthew Muma is there in the chat as well. Let's see. Anybody else? A lot of people slapping each other on the back. We like to have a friendly chat, so that's good. Michelle Bowers with her sword is here and ready for action, no doubt. Stealth X5 is joining us. Pity Ma, there she is. Stealth, again, for $2. Thank you, Stealth. Appreciate it very much. We all rely on that $2 greeting from you every single show we do, and it wouldn't be the same without it. Yeah, where are we at here? So confused. There's I thought it was caught up and then I'm not. I keep seeing stuff that okay, there's Michelle. Wildman Actuals here, Headless Bourgeoisie, JP Roca. Chris Maycock is joining us. Spaceman, 10-8 Comics. Yeah, let's see. There's Will Holloway. Says, I keep the heat down low too, but it's because I'm cheap. Well, I have to go downstairs to turn the heat on, so it's like, yeah. Hulk Smash wants to know, what is this crazy Aaron up to tonight? Oh, not selling anything, so I'm not crazy Aaron. I'm normal Aaron, which is probably some people would still say is crazy Aaron. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, I see. Eric Boyd says, it was a line from Better Off Dead. The scene where the newspaper kid keeps harassing John Cusack's character for his paper route money. Zeno the Stoic is here. SXS. Corey Landis joining us. Geek Avenger. There he is, Geek. Where's Squeaky? Scott Christie Jones. Hey, hail Aaron. Hail from the UK. I'm on night feeding for the baby. Really appreciate the stream. I'm here to keep you up while you're feeding that baby. Let's see. Custom God caught a live stream today. How about that? I assume you're talking about this one. Ink on Paper joining us. Good. Rolling in. Yeah, the crowd's rolling in late. It's not really that much of a late arriving crowd, but it is a, slowly arriving crowd. So we say there's Geek for 5. Call me Chopped Liver, kicked off X, but Aaron doesn't care. Hail Aaron and Baron. Call me Chopped Liver. You've been kicked off X, right? I remember you bringing that up a while ago. You must have said something controversial. But Aaron doesn't care. That's close to accurate, yes. Hail Aaron and Baron. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that very much. Okay. What is Randy Howell saying here? He says, help an old boomer out. Hop on X, Twitter, and retweet Aaron's posts for the stream. Of course, he's referring to me as an old boomer, and that digs deep. Haven't done that in a while. That feels good. Refreshing. Okay. There we go. Brohawk, who's an expert, quite frankly, on getting kicked off social media, says that being kicked off means you're doing something right, and that's probably true. Gemini Dragon wants to know if Andy Smith is working with you on Barbarian Adventures. Originally, I was going to have him do that, but then I didn't, because he's going to be doing his own stuff. And I had David, of course, was always in the plans. And then Dan, of course, being a graybeard, big Barbarian fan, I figured, Dan would be a good choice. Because he's not doing any interiors at the moment anyway. So it worked out that way, but hopefully it'll be successful enough that we can do more than one. And then I can, rope in some other guys to do stories as well. There we go. Geek Avengers saying, has a habit of stating that Islam is incompatible with Western civilization, which is true, and the rest of humanity, which is probably true. That's just me, though. I didn't think you could say anything on X to get kicked off anymore, but apparently you can. Leg Kick is reminding everybody that Graham Nolan's Shanu 77 launched Halloween. I was there later that night with him and the Tooch. We did, the midnight to 1 a.m. Crowd segment. And so, yeah, be aware of Graham's Shanu 77 over on Indiegogo. Nicholas Gear. When do we get more Garbage Man? He's demanding it, I think. Thank you for the $2. Appreciate that very much. That's a good question. Well, David Williams, who's in the chat, made a suggestion to me a while ago that, maybe doing a book that's like Tales of Suspense, 1960s series from Marvel, where you have two features in one, might be the way to go. And then that would allow me to do, say, a Wraith of God story along with a Garbage Man story in the same book, rather than having a Garbage Man being a separate project and Wraith of God being a separate project. What that would mean, though, of course, is you'd have, like 24-page 30-page Wraith of God story. So like a normal comic book issue story, and then a normal comic book issue story of more or less. I mean, there'd be more pages than that, but that's essentially the thing. So it depends on if I want to go into that mode where I'm, doing stories that are within the context or fit within the page count of, 24 to 30 pages. So we'll see. Many things can happen. But it seems like a logical way to do it, because it's so hard to do. If everything's a 64-page graphic novel, I'm going to be 70 before I get everything done that I want to get done. So David, of course, let everybody know that he is a genius. He has a lot of good ideas. He has a lot of bad ideas, just like everybody else. Now, David does actually he's a good idea guy for stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm high on sugar because, so the last 2 years, we have a very barky dog, as if you guys didn't notice that. And every time we have trick-or-treaters, it's like, come to the door, the dog goes nuts. He tries to jump on everybody, and he doesn't bite, but he's very aggressively barking and jumping on people and stuff. And so I was like, so we'd put the bowl out there with candy in it with a sign that says, just take 2, please. Leave some for the other kids. And of course, people come by and they just take it all and they don't care. And so I got kind of ticked off about that. And so I said, well, this year I'm handing out candy. So I went and had a huge bowl of candy, gated the dog into the kitchen family room area so he couldn't get to the door. And then 2 people came to the house the entire night. And I'm looking out the door, and there were just tons of kids in the neighborhood walking on the other side of the street, but none of them came over to our house. And I was really offended. And I was like, what the heck is going on? And sure enough, this is just speculation, and it could be me being paranoid, but we have an American flag hanging out, and we have a Christian flag hanging out on our porch. And this is Oregon. And I wondered, did people not come to our house because they thought, oh, that guy's got an American flag, he must be a conservative? I mean, it was really bizarre. So next year, I'm just turning off the lights and saying, screw everybody. I'm not giving candy to anybody. The heck with y'all. So as a result, I've got this huge bowl of candy, and we've just been eating too much of it. I didn't expect to have any left, and I've got like 10. So there you go. Randy Howell says, a cross is hippie repellent. That is true. Yeah, we actually got, 5 kids total, but they were in, 2 groups that rang the doorbell, and they were little. And then one junior high girl that lives across the street. So that was it. Past Pastor Dan says a bar of soap is hippie repellent. That is true too. All right, let's get rolling here, because I'm gonna have Portland smells like gym class. I'm gonna have Mike and Pat joining me. Now, okay, here's the thing. So I sent Mike the link, right? And I said, come in at 4:00. That's my time. And he goes, oh, can Pat Broderick come on? I said, of course. So he sent Pat the link, but didn't tell Pat what time to come on. So Pat was here at the very beginning of the show. And I said, Pat, Mike's not coming on until 4. Do you want to come on now? Or do you want to wait for him? And he's like, oh, I'm going to wait for him. And I said, okay, we'll come back in 30 minutes. So in typical Mike Barron fashion, he, doesn't fill in Pat on all the important information. So I'm assuming that Mike is going to show up. I know Pat is, because Pat will be back, at 4:00. So, why did I shave the beard? I was trimming it, and didn't go well. So then I was like, oh crap! So I had to cut the whole thing, and I didn't really shave it. You can see I've got the scruff, so it'll be back before you know it. And plus, I dressed up as my daughter convinced me. I don't know where the pictures are. I'll show them on Graybeards, but I've got, I was dressed up as Bob's from Bob's Burgers, and she was Tina, one of the daughters. And so we did that and got pictures, and then she left to do something. And so I took the costume off, and, so it wasn't really very eventful, but we do have pictures of it, and it's kind of funny. So, but I don't know where they are. So anyway. All right, well, we got a few moments here, so let's see what Frank Frazetta has to offer us this week. You remember when those books came out? They were quite the stir in the 90s. Is it Veritech or Verotic? I don't know, but anyway, so Jaguar God was one of them. Death Dealer was another book, and of course they used Frazetta paintings. I believe the Jaguar God was created for the comic, and of course Frank didn't do anything on the inside, but he did do the covers. And Bisley did the Death Dealer book, which was really phenomenal. Some of, I think, Bisley's best pen and ink work he's ever done was right there. And so anyway, those were kind of a big deal for a short period of time. Frank had his sort of resurgence because he had a thyroid problem and wasn't on the proper medication and was basically stumbling around his house, losing his mind from the reports I heard. And then they finally figured out it was his thyroid, and then he needed, they balanced his medication or whatever. And then suddenly he became Frazetta again and started, doing this stuff. And he did this stuff for like that sketchbook, the pencil drawings that Danzig published through Veritech or Broderick. And everybody blew everybody's mind. They're like, oh my gosh, Frank's, at that time he was in his mid 60s or whatever. And it was like, he still got it. And so he had this kind of Frazetta resurgence there in the 90s for a while. And that's what that's from. Anyway, there you go. Darren Wagner says, Jaguar God was just a recolored dark wolf. That's okay. Well, there's some truth in that. Yeah, it's very dark wolf looking, but Marcus Killiger says, I think it's V-erotic, whatever. You know what I just realized? I've got something sitting around, so I might as well do this too.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Literally candy that you could get at a movie theater for a change. I'm not even going to pretend this is a healthy eating option, but just remember, kids, brush your teeth after you eat chocolate. I'm going to be sick by the time my Halloween candy's gone. Sick, I tell you. All right. Well, it looks like the guests are starting to roll in, so let's do a little intro here and bring in the guys. That wasn't long enough for me to finish eating this, but please put your hands together, even though he won't be able to hear you, and welcome our good friend, Mike Barron, back to the show. Hello, Mike.
I hear you.
You didn't tell Pat to come at 4. Pat came at 3:30, and I had to tell him Mike's not coming until 4. So I told him, come back in a few minutes. So,
well, man, I feel your pain as you eat that chocolate, because there's so much candy sitting around this house. I don't need it.
Neither do I, but I'm eating it. So do you guys get a lot of kids in your neighborhood, or are you out in the middle of nowhere?
We did. We had a bunch of kids. Not enough. I mean, I know some neighborhoods do a lot more. But Ann, because I was on a live stream last night at dusk, and every time the kids come to the door, the dogs go berserk.
Yeah.
So she just took a big bowl of candy and she left it out there.
And then one kid come by and takes the whole thing. Now, I've heard that Pat Broderick was that kid back in the day, but we'll find out. Please welcome to the show, Pat Broderick. There he is. You're muted, Pat. There you go.
Hey,
welcome.
How you doing? Talking about Halloween mischief?
Well, I'll put my hat on if you guys can hear me, because I got to switch modes here. Let me see here.
All right. Well, I didn't know we were doing like safari hats or cowboy hats.
Look, I've been wearing this for like 7-8 years. Okay. But
I like it. It's a good look.
Can you guys hear me clearly?
I got to. Okay, now we can't hear you, Mike. Are you?
Clearly?
No, we can't hear you. No, wait. We have to wait 20 minutes for Mike to figure out how to get his mic working. Yeah.
Unplug his headphones.
Yeah. Technology. It's really not.
Yippee-ki-yo.
Yeah.
All right. So, no, we were just talking about putting out a bowl of candy on Halloween and then expecting the neighborhood kids to only take a couple when they know they're coming by, and the first one comes by takes the whole thing. I did that the last couple of years to keep the dog from barking too, but ticks me off.
When I was doing Halloweens, I was under strict adult supervision. You know, nobody allowed any of their kids to do that. They'd be whipping their ass out in the streets.
Yeah, well, now it's the parents that are doing it.
I know.
When I did Halloween, we were just little monsters running wild with no supervision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old days.
Yeah, well, by the time I had kids of my own, it became more of a protection thing for me because I knew about those little monsters that were out there. Like,
Yep, absolutely.
Let me see if there's an adjustment for this microphone.
Well, Mike's having all kinds of problems.
Technical problems.
We're going to get into Bronze Star 2 in just a second, but Pat, since this is the first time I've had you on, obviously, how in the world did Mike Barron talk you into working with him on this?
It was pretty easy because Mike and I had been wanting to work together on a project for some time. Before this, Bronze Star, I was working on Shatter 2.0, Peter Gillis project. It was the relaunching of his computer-generated comic from the late 70s, at First Comics.
Yeah.
And I had finished that gig. It was 6 issues of that. And I was just looking for something interesting to draw. You know, I didn't really want to do another superhero because at the time I was getting plenty of commission requests for my standards, my hits, you know, and nothing was really challenging. I did I think it was a two-gun kid or Kid Cold Outlaw. I can't remember which. May have been both. Just a faux cover. Put it up on Facebook, and I had a great time. And I think that led to Mike contacting me and asking me what would I like to draw, and I told him a Western.
I remember you going back to the first time I saw your stuff was on, I want to say Captain Marvel, because didn't you take over after Starlin left or shortly thereafter?
Yeah, I took over from Al Milgram on it. Milgram followed Starlin.
Okay. Yeah. So was that your first work over at Marvel, or were you on stuff before that?
I was on stuff before that. I was doing. I did I think 3 issues of Iron Fist, and I was doing black and white work for their monster books, spot illustrations and stuff, some Werewolf by Night work, and also Iron Fist, and I think they were called the Sons of the Tiger. But it was for the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, black and white.
Right.
I also got to do a really nice samurai story for that also.
How did you, we'll get to Bronze Star in a second. Mike's over there in a seat, but I got to ask you, Pat, how did you end up on Weird World? The reason I asked that is one of my favorite things, that fantasy thing. And the first one was Plug and Nino in Marvel Premiere 38. And then Buscema did that big color thing with Nebraze, and then it seems like you took over after that, and it was all over the place. It was showing up in the black and white magazines, and there was some color stuff. How did that fall into your lap?
A stroke of luck, you know. I was still looking for work after I completed at that time. It could have been Captain Marvel, actually, and they asked me if I would be interested in doing a limited run Weird World, and said yes. I would very much so, you know. And I was working on that, and that's when I heard that Buscema was doing his Warriors of the Shadow, I think it
Yeah,
was.
of the realm. Yeah, Warriors of the Shadow
Yeah.
Realm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I loved the original series, and I was already working hand in hand with Doug Munch
Mhm.
for a few years. So I knew when Doug was doing humorous stuff, and we pulled it out, and I thought we did a good job.
Yeah, yeah. Do you looking back over your career? Do you find yourself more of a superhero guy, or would you rather be doing fantasy work or westerns, things like you're doing now? What are your roots, do you think, in terms of subject matter that you enjoy drawing most?
Right now, I can say that I like doing stories with regular people, whether it's supernatural, sci-fi, horror. I like what Mike and I have created with this Western thing. I'm really getting to know Cobb's Gap, and the people that live there that we use are Mike's characters. I like it also because I was stuck in a machine, Aaron, that liked to turn out only superhero comics. And I initially wanted to draw comics, so I didn't care what superhero they offered me.
Right.
But after 45 years, it's like, I don't want to draw another spandex character. I just don't.
Well, I think we all sort of, getting into this independent market, we've all sort of like welcomed the opportunity to do something different that maybe we wanted to do our whole career, but just, Marvel or DC were not going to push Westerns. They were not going to push this type of stuff generally that, because I was a big, like most people, Frazetta was a big influence on me, Wrightson was when I was a kid. And those were all fantasy horror type stuff. So some of Barry Smith's Conan stuff as well. And so I always wanted to do that stuff, but there never really seemed to be that much of a market for it. But now we're sort of creating our own market with this stuff, which brings us to Bronze Star 2. Mike, let me go ahead and play the trailer, and then we'll get into it a little bit. All right?
Yeah.
In the lawless, unforgiving Old West, one man tried to bury his past, only to discover that some nightmares never stay buried. Newly appointed Sheriff Harley Brogdon thought he'd left trouble behind, until ancient terrors from Native American legend clawed their way out of the cold earth. Bronze Star 2 is the thrilling continuation of the critically acclaimed Weird Western series by Eisner Award-winning writer Mike Baron and legendary artist Pat Broderick, co-creator of Creature Commandos. Return to Cobb's Gap, where every bullet fired is a deadly gamble, and every shadow may conceal an unimaginable horror. The legend rides again, deeper into darkness, into a series of hellish nightmares that will haunt you long after the final page. 2 chilling journeys into the heart of the Weird West await you in Bronze Star 2. Pre-order the pulse-pounding sequel now at fundmycomic.com.
All righty, there it is. Let me make this smaller. There we go. So you guys decided to avoid the hassle of Indiegogo that it's become and go right to Fund My Comic.
We're also going to be on Kickstarter later this month.
Okay. Excellent. Hey, we got a super chat here from Leg Kick, and he says, "Hi, Pat." He says, "Do you remember an artist named Jeff Acklin? He drew the cover to Marvel Spotlight #1 with Captain Marvel. You drew the next comic." Does that ring a bell?
I remember the cover, but I don't think I ever met him.
Travis Perrick for 5. Thank you, Travis. Says, "Mr. Barron, look at that respect. Did you get a chance to meet Charles Barkley when you wrote Godzilla versus the Charles Barkley, when you got to write Godzilla versus Charles Barkley?
No, but I did meet Godzilla, and he was much nicer than you'd expect.
Oh my goodness. Randy Howell for $5 Canadian. For those watching on X and Twitter, you can find the Bronze Star 2 campaign link and reply to this post. It's also in the description of this video, guys. It'll take you right to the Fund My Comic thing. And then any of my mods in there, you guys want to grab that and repost it, would be great. All right. So, Mike, when you conceptualized this Bronze Star thing, did you have Pat in mind originally, or did you actually?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't have done this if we hadn't done Bronze Star first, and that exceeded our expectations aesthetically and critically. But it didn't take off the way we had hoped because, as you know, Aaron, the comic book fan favors certain genres, leading with superheroes, horror, barbarians, science fiction, and good girl art. And by the way, when you mention science fiction and good girl art, Kit Carter comes to mind.
And you can get a copy of Kit Carter by visiting my website if you have not backed it already. Thank you for the plug, Mike.
It's outstanding work.
So did you, when you wrote Bronze Star, because I remember when I wrote first issue of Wraith of God, I had no idea how it was going to do, right? So I made sure I had a self-contained story, but I left the door open, obviously, for continuing adventures. How did you approach the first Bronze Star? Were you thinking sequel before you started, or were you hoping?
No, I wasn't really. I was just determined to tell a great story. It didn't occur to me that we would only do one and never revisit it again either. I'm always open to a sequel if it's feasible. I mean,
Right.
And it is feasible in this case because our protagonist survived, and in fact, he became the sheriff.
Right. So, Pat, when you came into drawing the first issue of this, were you? I'm going to ask you the same thing I asked Mike. I mean, obviously, you guys are looking at the numbers and stuff. Were you guys talking sequel? Were you hoping for sequel, or you just leave the phone open and say, "Hey, Mike, if you do another one of these, let me know," kind of thing?
Well, no, it was more than that because Pat has told me that this is his favorite genre, and he would prefer to work on this rather than any corporate-owned character because this is ours. And that's always an impetus. And also when you do good work and you know you do good work, and we did some of the best work of our lives on these books, you get excited and you say, yeah, let's do it again. But
no, Pat, I'm looking at your artwork here, and there's a ton of cross-hatching, line work, the kind of stuff. And I found myself doing this as well because I'm working on a horror Western as well. And this type of stuff, and I'm just curious if you agree or not, that kind of lends itself to more of an illustrative approach than, say, a superhero comic might. So when you approached this, did you have a certain style and approach that you wanted to use? You're seeing in your mind, this is the way this is going to look best, or do you just start going and you start noodling and get kind of carried away? What was your approach initially coming into this book artistically?
I wanted to do something that if John Severin was looking over my shoulder, he'd say, "Good job." Okay.
Yep.
And I referenced a huge amount of Severin's work doing this. I explained it to Mike in the sense that I thanked him for he brought me my muse back, because drawing wasn't fun. I didn't feel inspired with the work. I was just producing,
Right.
But when I started doing the first page of this, it was a pleasure. And I found myself not letting any of the work go, Aaron. I mean, I've spent 3 or 4 days on a page.
Yeah.
So I didn't care about hustling up a 24-page book a month. It was
Right.
more important than that.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I think that, you know, that, like you said, that inherently comes with when you've got a project that you own, you know, that you want to make it a little bit more special than just, you know, doing the paycheck work for Marvel and DC, which is, and it's funny, the farther we get away from that, the harder it is to think in those terms, you know, 5 pages a week or 6, whatever, you know, I don't know what
Yeah,
your speed was,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that was me,
2 a
you know,
day.
5 to 6 pages a week. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't inking my work then. It was just penciling, but I still had to do between 2 and 3 pages a day.
Oh, God.
You know, had
Were
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Girl, in doing that, it was hard when we were young. It's really hard now
Yeah.
to work at that pace. Were you?
Especially when you include the detail that Pat does. I put a page there for you to post. It's a shame that it has to be so small, but when you look at it and you look at the line work,
Mhm.
you understand what goes into each one of these pages. I mean, there's nobody else is doing anything like this. You look at that detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
That's crazy.
werewolf.
That's a lot of work right there on that page. That's really, really nice. And it's, you know, it's nice to, again, to have the freedom and the luxury and the schedule to be able to do it the way you want to do it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, it's a long wait, you know, for Mike and for everybody, but um I we of course could present this as a floppy, break it down, but that's not the way we're looking at it, you know.
Mhm.
So I like having the longer stories to draw. Because tell you the truth, I it's my Social Security project. You know,
There you go.
I got a monthly check coming in. Yeah, you know, so that takes the pressure off of it. So
That's nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and also I think I remember I only think I did, when I was working at DC, I think I did one prestige format book, right? So I got the square bound, oversized, and because it was prestige format, I really wanted to put more effort into it and take a little bit more time with it. And now that we're doing these things independently, but they're still graphic novels, they're square bound, they're nice,
yeah,
you know, packages. And
yeah,
you want your work, you want to represent yourself at the highest level you can.
yeah.
And
Well, and the total product. You know, I mean,
right.
he's a top notch writer. Okay,
Mhm.
the guy, he just can't produce enough work. But also the total package, the presentation of it, how it looks, it's a top quality book. You know?
Yep. And it's, you know, it's funny, and I'll ask you guys both this, and because I get people again with my book, Wraith of God, they're like, "Are you ever going to do a black and white?" Right? Because
Mhm.
there's so much detail in it. And I would have you guys considered like doing a black and white version of this book?
Well, we did for the first one. We're going
Or
to do it
did
for
you?
the second one. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I got the color version. That tells you what I know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I was going to say you can take that one, Mike. You know.
It's a big
Uh,
one.
yeah. Yeah. We're doing another one for this, so there's a package that combines both of them into one. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, now I sound stupid, but thanks for enlightening me to stuff I probably should have known before I had
Well,
you
we'll
on.
see if we can find one for you, Aaron.
Yeah, really, Mike. Send me
Yeah.
one. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike, what can you tell us about the story here to sell this to our viewers?
Well, the first thing I did was look up supernatural legends of the Pacific Northwest, and Wendigo was prominent among them. In
Mhm.
fact, Wendigo is prominent among many Indian tribes of that region. And there was a very specific description of Wendigo, which was a giant 7-foot tall figure with a skeletal upper body, enormous claws, and the skull of a deer and the antlers of an elk for a head.
That's the traditional description, right, of the
Yes.
character. It's nothing like what we saw what Marvel did or
No.
whatever, make him just an abominable snowman, but he's this character that you depicted here.
Yeah, you're not forgetting its heart, though, Mike.
The beating heart?
Well, the frozen heart.
Tell him, Pat.
Yeah, the heart's exposed and it's frozen, and it God, the demon is able to freeze its prey with fear with its heart, on top of its dead body and its long claws and everything else. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought I was showing that page and I realized I wasn't. I'm saying, hey, what about this? And you guys you haven't seen it. Okay, there we go.
That's Pat's Wendigo.
God, just the the cross hatching and the stuff up there in the sky and just creating the volume and the depth using the line work is really impressive, Pat. Nice work.
Well,
Pat
thank you.
draws everything, including the straw on the ground, the leaves on the tree, the horizon, and the stars in the sky.
Yeah, but I do it traditionally, Mike. Okay.
That's right.
Everything, yeah. So
Screw that digital stuff. I'm now I don't criticize any. I got friends that use digital stuff, but I got to have the original. You know what I mean? I've got to have a physical piece of artwork that I've worked on that, I just don't, I get no satisfaction out of doing something digitally at all. I mean, we color it digitally because, we have to, but other than that, the line work, it's got to be done on paper for me or forget it. And I guess that's just 'cause I'm old fashioned, but, let me bring up the campaign again here.
I found digital coloring a black hole that you dive into if you don't keep track of it, because of the options and the mistakes and just the variables.
Right.
I spend a lot of time coloring with it.
Yeah, I'm a very slow digital colorer, and it's like you say, you can zoom in on the smallest little thing and get carried away, and then you zoom back out and go, I can hardly see that. I just spent a couple hours doing that guy's face, and no one's gonna even notice.
Yeah.
So I've tried to get myself to be a little bit more simple, a little more old school, not flat coloring like we used to have it, but a little bit higher level than that, but not this over rendered stuff that goes nuts. Because I still like you're probably the same way. I like the line work to carry the art and the color just to complement it, not to take it over.
I've always been disappointed with the coloring in the past on a lot of the work, because it seemed like the colorists were not following the direction of light.
Right.
Okay.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, very. So it just made me want to lock it down more and more. So if they made a mistake, somebody would have to see that the color is screwed up.
Well, I remember I got to a point at DC where I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to go more in open style, because the colorist is going to do whatever they're going to do regardless. Because I was putting in shadows, and like you said, and they were not following the light source, and you're like, are they not paying attention? And so I just would get more of an open style so that I wouldn't be as pissed when I saw the printed version.
Yeah.
All right. So Mike, you got three, is that, we got three covers on this edition, or four?
There are three covers. Right? There are three covers.
Right.
First two by Pat. Then is that Rags Morales did the other one?
It is Rags. That is Rags.
Whatever happened to Rags Morales? I didn't know what he was up to.
He's working on a secret project.
Okay. There we go. Now here is the black and white edition. Now is this oversized, or is this going to be?
Yes, it is. Oh, it's big.
Yeah, oversized hardback.
Very nice. Look at that. So does that just have the artwork, or are you going to have the balloons in there as well? So it's a readable, or is it just
story? It's the whole story. It's just in black and white. You see
Okay.
everything clearly.
Very nice. So is this? Let's see here. Hardcover. Look at that. Nice, Mike. Very nice, guys. Now, what do we got here? Is this a print? Special editions and exclusive packages here?
Let me tell you about the various stages. I have the dog whimpering in the background. Why are you whimpering, Mac?
They only make noise when you come on stream. You know, they're quiet until you get on and it's barking and yep.
All right, digital edition, $10. The book itself in softcover, $25. The two collector set, $65. You save $10 on that. Own all three softcover options.
Okay.
There's Bronze Star 1. We're going to go back to the theater, to the printer with that, and that's going to be limited quantity. It's going to be $25. The Bronze Star 1 and 2 primer set, the softcover, will be $45.
Okay.
There's a retailer bundle for retailers who want to carry the book. There's an artist edition, the oversized hardcover, limited to 300 copies at $75. There's the Legacy Edition, a deluxe full-color hardcover collecting both volumes, signed by Pat and me.
Oh.
Includes digital copies of both volumes, a very rare collector's edition. There's only going to be 100 of those.
Okay.
There's the Treasury Collection. Includes all three softcover options for Volume 2, along with the Volume 2 Artist Edition hardcover, the digital edition, autograph plate, and the backer's name will appear in the book.
Nice.
Then there's the Artist Compendium Legacy Edition, an oversized 144-page black and white hardcover, collecting both volumes' artist editions, along with processed pages, back matter, and signed bookplate. Very rare collector's item, limited to 100 copies. That's $250. Then there's the Outlaws Vault. Everything in Treasury Collection, plus a copy of the Volume 1 softcover and Volume 1 Artist Edition hardcover, including digital, and the backer's name in the book, Volume 2 version. And there can only be 8 of these. 8 of these.
Wow.
And then there's the Masterwork Edition. Volume 1 Artist Edition, oversized hardcover with original one-of-a-kind, hand-drawn artwork by Pat.
Wow.
On front end papers signed by both creators. There's only going to be 3 copies of these, $750. It's destined to become a very sought after collector's item.
My God.
There's a coupon code for Halloween Day. That's over.
Yeah.
A retailer bundle. Okay. We've got it all. And all this stuff is, you got tons of artwork on here. So this double page spread right here with the werewolf in the back, is this what one of the things you drew on one of the end papers?
Yeah.
So you're not doing a head sketch, you're doing a freaking finished drawing in there. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a double page scene. I had copies of the artist edition, and they were selling very well. And I was looking at them, and it hit me. It's like I need to put an illustration in the cover inside. And I did 2 of them, and they both sold at OA in Orlando last year, like within an hour.
Wow.
And I saw how collectible they were because it's within the book. I'm not doing, the print run of these.
Right.
So decided to offer it up. And it's both sides. It's the inside front cover and then the front page. So.
My gosh. Yeah, that's a spectacular illustration that you get inside your book. That's amazing. Yeah. So now, are you in Florida, Pat?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
So you're still doing shows then? You still got enough, you're a better man than me. I'm losing so much interest in doing shows that it's like they really have to talk me into it.
I feel you for it. I really do. You know, it's not what it used to be. So.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm out there. I'm able to promote the product. You know, so everybody comes up to the table doesn't leave without a promotion card. You know, for Bronze Star and whatnot.
Right.
So I'm able to meet a lot of people that way.
Yeah, it is. It is amazing that because we automatically think that we're on social media or whatever that we have a pretty large audience, but in reality, it's like so few people see what we're working on. I go to shows and people come up to me, and I'm sure you're the same way. Like, hey, what have you worked on since whatever? Right? So for me, it was like I had somebody ask me, what had I worked on since Wonder Woman, which was like I think 2011. It's like I've been working on a lot since then, and so. You can get them to see, you get people that aren't aware of what you're doing, get them up to speed. So it is worth it. If you can stand it, which apparently you still can. So good for you.
Well, I found that partnering up with Mike and with Chris, Chris knows what he's doing. He's doing the animation and production work for the trailers, and he's handling all of the placement of these things. And the book's doing very well right now for 2 days in. So
yeah,
we're happy. We're happy. I'm happy.
Chris is a professional videographer. You somehow got Sam Elliott to do the narration for the video.
I think you're full of it, Mike. But
listen to the video.
I know it sounds like him.
No, it's AI.
I was going to say, is that our AI version of him?
Yeah, I don't know.
I keep seeing this AI, and I'm very anti-AI. But boy, when I see someone take a still drawing that I've done and turn it into a short animation, I'm like, man, how long before we can just create our own animated films without anybody getting in our way? It's right around the corner. So I guess there's some positive things there as well.
Well, those of us that understand cinematic storyboard will have an edge on it. Okay.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
It's not comics. It's not comics.
What? Okay, so what is this right here? The Weird Western Returns is bronze. This isn't a cover. So what exactly is this serpent piece here?
Oh, that's the Ogopogo monster, the serpent.
Yeah. Right, but what is it in terms of? Is this a print people can get, or is this just an advertising piece, or what exactly is it?
It's an alternate cover.
Oh, it is. So this is one of the covers that you can get.
Well, let me see.
Mike, now you lied to me because you said there's only the 3 covers, and now are you telling me?
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Although Ogopogo is in the 3rd cover by Rags Morales, well, we got to do something with this. It's either going to be the back cover or a poster or a print or something.
Yeah, you guys could make a print out of this. That's pretty nice. I like that a lot, actually. And with that sort of tannish paper color around it, that's a nice piece. You guys should do something with it. The very least,
would make a nice print.
Yeah, it'd make a very nice print. So there you go. That's just my 2 cents worth, whatever it actually is worth. On this Fund My Comic, I haven't used them yet. Do they go, Mike? Do these guys go in demand, or do you just have like 60 days and it's over?
Oh.
Good question. Let me see what it says.
I knew I was going to screw you up with that one.
Yeah. Let's see. 59 days to go.
Right. And then it's going to close. So you guys go.
Yeah, it's going to close, but it'll probably remain in demand on Kickstarter.
Okay. What do you guys, what's your hope for this being complete and shipping to the readers?
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are already done with it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a novel concept.
I know.
So this, as soon as this
Brutal. It's a brutal concept, let me tell you. Okay.
Well, did you do that on the first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we try to do that with every book I put out, that the art is done, it's finished before we start the campaign. And that's why we are always on time.
Yeah, I was going to say, and then, so yeah, this is going to ship right when this thing is, well, I assume whatever it wraps up on Kickstarter, because that's going to run later than this one probably, right? Because it's starting later.
Yes.
But then when that ends, you guys are going right to press and with your orders and shipping when it, obviously when it gets back from the printer. So that's great. So you don't have to sit around and wait a year like they do for me. You guys are ready to go.
Oh, but it's worth the wait.
I got to hand it to you because I know how hard that is when you're working on, future pay. I think it's great because I think we're always fighting for a level of trust from the customer that, we're going to fulfill the campaign. And when you're able to just say, hey, this book is done, that's a real nice boost to the confidence of the buyer. And you probably makes it a lot easier to get people to back. So that is great news, you guys. So when this campaign's over, this book goes to the printer and ships out. So back it. All right, guys. Anything else you want to throw in here, Bronze Star 2, before we let Mike go to bed?
You saw me on Friday night. I was up way past. But anyhow, no, it's just that we're very proud of this work, and we have a couple of ideas for number 3 already.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We've even kicked around some nice, interesting marketing ideas. So.
Pat, do you know Val Merrick? I assume you do, but
yes.
Yeah, he's working on putting together a crowdfunder as well right now, and so I'm glad to see, some of us that have been around a while in the industry, kind of getting a second lease on life here and on projects that we want to work on. This is great. So
is Vale's project the one with the dinosaurs?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that'll be an exciting thing for him too, and I'll have him on pushing it as soon as he's ready to go on that as well. So I think I'll be contributing something to that. Great. Anything that has dinosaurs in it, you don't have to twist my arm. So
yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. And,
thank you, Aaron.
I want everybody to know that the link's in the description of this video. So whenever you're watching this video, if you're watching it now or you're watching it whenever down the line, just check the description of this video and there'll link take you right to this campaign. You can back it. This is going to be a great book, you guys. You don't want to miss it. So, and thank you again to our legends, Mike Barron and Pat Broderick, for joining me today. And you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening now.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, there you go. How about that? Mike and Pat, I was glad to get, I didn't know until late that Pat was going to come on with Mike. So I didn't have all the questions that I would have normally prepared for a first time interview with Pat. But guy that's obviously been around since the 70s doing work at Marvel and DC and independently. And it's just exciting. This is the kind of thing that you like to see with the independent comics, right? Yeah, it's a great ground for new creators getting into the industry, but it's also nice that we're seeing it come full circle, and we're seeing guys, including myself at this point, that you worked in the industry for years and have kind of worn out or welcome one way or another, and getting an opportunity now to do the kind of work that we've always wanted to do. And it's all thanks to you guys for supporting us and allowing us to do that. Of course, the trade-off is generally you're getting some really cool comics, and we we appreciate you guys getting behind us and backing this stuff and making it possible that we can kind of have this this second or second chance careers, if you will, but also creating a different market out there to compete with Marvel and DC, who have just crashed the ship, as far as I'm concerned, in most cases. So anyway, there we go. I'm glad to have those guys on. So now, question is, what do I do next? I got to get my, I didn't do my show list. I got piles of stuff over here. Okay, we did, we're not going to do Frank Miller quite yet. I do want to talk a little bit about Wraith of God 3. It's not an active campaign anymore. It is closed out, obviously. And everything, oh, I should show you guys, but I'm not going to. I got the poker chips back. And those were add-ons that you could get. The trading cards are all, my 94-year-old mother has them all bagged and boarded, ready to go. The sketchbook, I just got the proof, the digital proof for the sketchbook from the printer. So I'm signing off on that. So that's going to go to press next week. I keep getting, well, not delays, but there's like stages to putting the actual book together, you know. Once I close the campaign, the artwork's done, then we're doing the lettering, right? We're making sure all the coloring gets done and the lettering gets done. Then the lettering's got to be proofed. And then you go back and make all the changes that the proofreader finds. And then you go back and make the changes that your second proofreader finds that your first proofreader didn't find. And so anyway, that sort of evolves until you finally get your PDFs or your printer's proofs, right? And these are high-res files that go to the printer. And let me show you like what some of this looks like a little bit. All right, so this is what my designer does. He puts together, well, actually, I put together the cover, but then he turns it into this file that goes to the printers. And this is for cover D, which is the Chris Stevens painted cover. So they'll send me a template, the printer will. You can see the hash marks here. These are this is full bleed out here, trim lines here. So you got to make sure everything is sort of within the trim lines, the safety margin there for the trims. And so then I assemble this and I send it to my designer, who then readies them for printing, which I guess is not that difficult to do. I guess there's a program called InDesign, but that would require me actually learning to do it. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to do everything from beginning to production on this. So that's what the cover C, that's the 1970s Marvel box cover homage, tribute cover, however you want to rephrase that. And so I put these things together. I send them to my designer. Then he puts them together again for the printer and then sends them to me to okay. And then I've got to be smart enough to find anything that's potential problem. And the problem with me is I suck at that, and I generally miss something. And then somewhere down the line, someone else will send me a proof, and I'm like, oh, crap, how did I miss that? Then I go back and fix it. Then I have my designer fix it. Then it goes back to the printer. So there's always it's always a work in progress, it seems like. But I think we're through all that garbage. And I don't have a print date yet. It is at the printers, but I don't have, when they expect to have them printed and shipped back to me. Hopefully it won't be more than a few weeks, but we will see. And there, of course, is the final cover, which is cover A. But like I said, the nice thing about this is once you get the back cover put together, it pretty much, all you're doing then is fixing the front cover, and everything else stays the same. But as an example, like the printers are super hyper concerned about stuff getting trimmed that isn't supposed to get trimmed. So even though you have these trim lines here and everything is inside the trim line, that's these inner marks right here. If they think whatever, like this number 3, if they thought it was too close to this trim line, the bleed line, this is like the safety line. The trim line is here. So the chance that this is going to get cut off inside this it's almost non-existent. And yet, if you get too close here, they freak out and want you to move stuff, which happens because I can't read their mind, right? If I put it within the hash marks, I should be fine. But then if they're scared, then they make you move stuff anyway. Like they made me reduce the printing size on the spine, which really ticked me off because it's well within where the fold should occur on the spine. And if the spine's the right thickness, which they've determined, it shouldn't be an issue. And yet they're so worried about it that I had to go back in after the fact and reduce the lettering size just to make sure. And so that's the kind of stuff you deal with. And that's why I could be an editor, but I don't want to be an artist and an editor and doing both because it's just a pain. And it's like two different sides of your brain sometimes. But anyway, when you're a single operational person here, not single, I'm obviously married, but I mean, when you're one person doing everything, that's just the way it goes. So I guess I'll quit complaining and say, thank you for backing Wraith of God 3. And as soon as I have a print date, when that book is supposed to be printed and shipped back to me, I will let you guys know. No, Snozhead, I have not gone over the Frank Miller covers yet. You missed the interview with Mike Barron and Pat Broderick for Bronze Star 2. That's what you missed. Angela Curry says, I got the shot glass again. I'm going to consider to start drinking again. The shot glasses, I just got the proofs on those. They sent me, okay, so I had some made up, like I think a dozen, because before the campaign started, because I had to get a picture of it so I could show you guys what the shot glass looked like. Well, they sent me the proof, and it had the logo like right in the middle of the shot glass, right where it should be. Well, when I got the actual shot glasses, they were all the way up on the rim of the glass. And I was like, so I had to get them to go back and redo them. And then, of course, after the end of the campaign, that number is much larger. So I had to I can't use the other shot glasses because these are the frustrating things you got to deal with, folks. And so I was very strict with them, and they actually sent me a proof, and I okayed the proof, but then they actually sent me a photograph of the first one off the printer line, and the logo was, thank God, placed correctly. And so I said, go ahead and finish them. So I'm assuming we're getting the shot glasses this week as well. McGregorable says, Aaron, I bought your Wonder Woman DC Finest book up next on my reading. Are you collecting any DC Finest books? I've got just a couple, like older ones that Neil Adams did the covers on. But I'm not a big DC guy when I collect. It's funny to say that because I worked on, for over a decade at DC. But that was more of a business decision than it was what's my favorite superheroes to work on kind of thing. And so I do have some DC books, but majority of my stuff is Marvel. And but DC always had good monster books, so that makes up a majority of my collection. But Bub66 says, can't hardly wait for Wraith of God 3. Wraith of God is my favorite comic. It has everything I want in a comic. Thank you very much for that, Bub. I appreciate it. When I conceptualize the whole thing, I always, I come up with ideas for stuff, but I try to create something within the parameters of what I feel confident that people are going to like or want, right? So that's how you end up with a superhero Western monster comic, right? So it has all of those elements in it. And so you're hitting 3 audiences with one IP rather than going, I'm going to go completely Western, or I'm going to go completely horror, or, so you try to incorporate as much of that stuff that makes it high concept, if you will, so that you have a broader appeal. And I do think in those terms when putting together concepts and IPs for projects. So thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. So anyway, that's where we're at on Wraith of God 3. And there's you get a digital proof, and then I demand a hard copy because the digital proof does not show printing flaws that maybe don't get detected. And so the only way you can make sure that there's nothing screwy going on is to actually get a hard copy proof. So there's these stages of proofing, and anytime you see something that's wrong in the proof, you got to go back and fix it, and then that starts the process over again. So, and when you've got multiple people working on a book, at least on the production end of it, which I do, like I have a designer, I have a letterer, I have colorists, different people doing different things. There's always something that potentially just slip through the cracks. So, we try to stay on top of everything. But sometimes things happen. And, that's why sometimes these books, especially with mine, I've had bad luck. I had the full, first run of Kit Carter hardcovers were damaged, and I had to go back to press, and they were going to do it immediately, but it took them 4 weeks before I got the hardcovers back because the first batch was wrecked. And thankfully the soft covers came in fine. But it's things like that you just don't have any freaking control over. And because you're a small publisher, you don't get the benefits that Marvel and DC do. So you just kind of get moved back on the list, and then extends the waiting time. So, all that to say that I appreciate you guys' patience, but you will be getting a really good quality product when you finally get them, which will hopefully be sooner than later. Pork Hunt. Have you read Wraith of God 2? Did you read the backup Garbage Man story in Wraith of God 2? If you haven't, I would suggest you do that, and you may get an answer to your question. There you go. So, and of course, if you didn't get Wraith of God 2 on the campaign, I got them on my website right now, aaronlepresti.com. You can order it right now, get a copy immediately. And all those questions just might be answered. So thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So let me show you some artwork. I think it's apropos to my next project, sort of an evolution of way back in the 90s to where I am right now. And we can only do it by opening up the drawer to my flat file. Okay, before I jump into Barbaric Adventures and what I've got on the horizon, I'm going to show you. I did this not Halloween night, but the night before Halloween. It's okay. I didn't quite get the Karloff likeness as good as I would have liked it, but I think it turned out decent. But it was kind of my last throw at monster art before Halloween. So there you go. That's kind of my Karloffian Frankenstein there. That's just a marker and whiteout pen on nice tan paper. But as David Williams often mocks me for, I draw recreationally. Not only do I draw professionally, I also do it recreationally. So after working on pages, sometimes I'll sit, listen to something on YouTube or whatever, and draw. And this is what this stuff comes from. So there you are. All right, that wasn't really in my flat file. It hasn't made it to my flat file, but it may not. It may make it into my portfolio, and I'll just put it up for sale. Okay, so Barbaric Adventures or Barbaric Magazine. Like I said, I think I'm leaning towards Barbaric Adventures, but it could just stay Barbaric. I don't know. We got a couple months to figure that out before the campaign goes live. So as I mentioned to Pat Broderick earlier in our conversation, that fantasy, Frazetta, that type of stuff has always been my earliest inspirations. About the time I discovered superhero comics, I was, 9 maybe, but I'd also discovered Frazetta, and then shortly after that, Wrightson. And so I had this kind of, and the 70s were, when I grew up, were a really big resurgence of sword and sorcery and Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. So it was very heavy in the pop culture at that time. And so that was my big influences. And so even though I always enjoyed drawing superheroes, I really always enjoyed doing horror comics, or I should say monster comics, not horror comics, but monster comics or barbarian comics, or like we had mentioned with Pat Broderick working on Weird Worlds, which is kind of an elf fantasy, Lord of the Rings type thing. That's always been sort of artistically where I like to lean into. So way back in the, I guess, mid 90s, I was still sort of, I don't know if obsessed is the right word. That may be too strong, but I wanted to do portfolios and I wanted to do all this kind of stuff that was very big in the 70s, then died out, by the late 70s and were pretty much gone. But you would see artists like Wrightson or Barry Smith or Kaluta or Neil Adams, or, Starlin did a couple, Val Merrick did some, guys that they wanted to do kind of a, do their own sort of not just self-publishing, but it was, they wanted to bring kind of a fine art sensibility into comic books. So they would do like prints, limited edition prints, and portfolios of prints that were thematic to, sci-fi or horror or fantasy, things that we didn't see a lot of in comics, and that that's what they really wanted to draw. So they figured, okay, well, I'll do these limited edition signed and numbered things. And of course I grew up on that, and I've got stacks of those from when I was younger. And so as a young professional, that's what I wanted to do, even though there wasn't really a market for it. So I did this thing called what was it called? It wasn't Weird World. It was Fantastic Worlds, a portfolio. And it was actually featured, the first appearance of Kit Carter was in there. But this is one of the pieces. This is the original piece. This is brush and ink on watercolor board. And this is obviously very Frazetta-y, right? So you got this caveman looking dude. And the portfolio was, I want to say, 4 black and white prints of this size, and then 1 color print. The color print was Kit Carter, and I hadn't even named her Kit Carter at that point. It was just the space Bubba Helmet Space Girl. And then these black and white ones, which was this one. There was a King Kong piece, which I've sold. I think I've sold all the pieces except this one. There was a plesiosaur with a girl swimming underwater with the giant plesiosaur. It was the King Kong piece. What else did I do? Isn't that funny? I cannot remember. I know there was two. There's King Kong piece, a girl, and this one, and one other one I can't remember in the Kit Carter one. So, but anyway, but you can see the influences, and this is going someplace, by the way. The Frazetta influence, the barbarian kind of thing. And then when I got a chance to do some work at Valiant, all I wanted to do out of the Valiant characters is work on Turok. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't work on Turok, but I did get a pinup. Because the editor I was friends with, whatever, was doing like The Visitor or something like that, and was not the Turok guy. So, but I did finagle through backdoor channels to get to do a Turok pinup, right, with some dinosaurs and things. And this was, I don't know if it's probably 95. This appeared in Turok the Hunted #2, for those of you who are curious. And this is the only piece right here that I ever got Shelley to pose for, was this. And this is we were young and in shape and newly married. She wasn't wearing that. She was wearing workout clothes, but still. So I got her to pose for me for that. That's my one claim to fame, of getting Shelley in front of the camera. I have the Apparitions portfolio. I have actually the limited edition one that has the black and white Barbarian plate in it, along with the color plates that's signed by Wrightson. 'Tis true. Nicholas Gear, you got any of them Tachyon pages? I got a ton of Tachyon pages. Okay, so again, you can see sort of the barbarian sort of influence, right? Well, then when I worked on Wonder Woman, Gail Simone said, "What do you want to draw?" And I said, barbarians, monsters, jungles, dinosaurs, something like that. Well, so we did this sort of barbarian arc with Wonder Woman, and that is Wonder Woman and Beowulf. And I did of course, the Barry Smith influenced, framing, because he had these flashback, or these, I don't know if they were flashback scenes, but there are scenes with her in, like, she moved back and forth between these realms where Beowulf was, and the Stalker, and Claw the Unconquered, who was their barbarian character. So this is one of the pages I kept from my Wonder Woman run. Matt Ryan on inks here. But again, this is my influences coming out, the stuff I really enjoy drawing. All right, so this was a lot of fun. Of course, Matt did a wonderful job inking. And I got to do a show in Germany. I was very fortunate to actually, wait a minute, hang on a second. Let's do this first. And then when I was working on Mystic, actually I should have shown this before the Wonder Woman piece, but I was working on Mystic for CrossGen. Tony Bedard was writing, "Hey, what do you want to draw?" And I'm like, "I don't know, dinosaurs, jungle action." And he said, "Okay." And so we have Mystic in her jungle attire. You can see I've got the caveman dude there. And again, inks by Matt Ryan here. I think this was the second issue. I don't have a ton of this stuff left, but I do have some of it. A lot of it sold because we would go to all the major conventions. CrossGen made us go to all the, they paid our way, of course, but they made us go to the, like, Chicago and all these big shows, and we'd had a big CrossGen booth. And so this stuff was kind of buzzing for a while. So there was demand for this original artwork. And so a lot of Mystic stuff is gone, but I do have a few pages left. But I wanted to show you guys that this is, this is where my heart lies, is with the barbarian world. So I got invited to a show in Germany. I said, well, I can't come to Europe without bringing my wife because she'll kill me. So they said, well, we really can't afford to bring your wife. And I said, well, then I guess you can't afford me. I said, what can we work something out? And he said, well, if you do a poster for our show, something that we can make prints out of and sell at the show to kind of, balance the extra cost of bringing your wife with you, then we have a deal. And I said, okay, I'll do the poster for the show. And sure enough, what did I do? Dortmund, Germany is where the show was at. And so I did this kind of barbarian sci-fi thing. See, here's our ship crashed. These guys on this barbarian planet, and now they're forced to survive on this planet of the dinosaurs and, these dudes, whoever they are. So that was the poster I did, or the artwork for the poster that I did for them. And it was so cool because I went into it was in this huge, convention center type hall, and it was split level, and these were everywhere. They were giant. They were hanging on light posts. You walked in the door and there was this huge movie diorama of this. And so it's kind of cool. But anyway, so there you go. Then back in the 90s when I was in Studiosaurus, I came up with this concept called Primal Zone. And it's a mixture of sci-fi and barbarianism and cave guys and dinosaurs and such. So I did an 8-page story. You can see it right up there, Primal Zone. And this appeared, some of it in an ash can that we did. But the book never got done because we ended up doing a book called Chicks. And also Atomic Toy Box, which ended up becoming Power Cubed. But everybody in the studio was like, no one's going to buy a dinosaur book. No one's going to do it. No one's going to do it. So I have this 8-page story, right? And so this entire thing, the 8-page story, will appear in Barbaric Adventures as the initial Primal Zone story. And I, of course, have revamped it, since 1995. And that'll be the story that I'm doing in Barbaric Adventures magazine. So you'll get my story, you'll get David Williams' story, you'll get Dan Lawless's story, and then you'll get this extra bonus 8-page story that I did back in the 90s. So it's like the original Primal Zone. That'll be in there, plus a few extra other little nice things. There'll be 4 covers, all painted, just like if it was a Savage Tales magazine, one by me, one by Lawless, one by David, and then one by our guest artist, which is already done, and I've seen it, and it's freaking awesome. So, but you'll have to wait until the campaign actually goes live before you get to see that stuff. But that's what's next after we get Wraith of God shipped out to you guys and in your hands. And then we will move on to that, which is going to be an 8.5 by 11 black and white magazine, just like Savage Tales or Savage Sword of Conan. It'll be, the paper quality is going to be higher. It's not going to be newsprint. But it is going to be a kind of a heavier sort of faux newsprint type to kind of give it that feel, but it'll be nicer. Excuse me, much nicer than, Savage Tales and Savage Sword used to be. So there you go. And I know there's a few people that are like, not black and white, but I'm telling you, all of us are doing ink wash, either by marker or actual ink wash, or if Dan, I'm sure will do his digitally, be all, Photoshopped grays and things like that. So it's going to be really, really nice artwork. Gary Martin, there he is in the chat will be contributing a pinup. So, you know, in like Savage Tales magazine, where you'd open it up and on the inside front cover, there would be like a pinup, right? Well, Gary's going to be supplying that for us. And there'll be various, I mean, I might throw in a pinup or here and there, or somewhere in the book as well. It's going to be 64 pages. So there'll be 3 stories plus some, well, actually be 4 stories, because the original Primal Zone story will be in there as well. It's just an 8-pager, but it'll be in there. And then, you know, some other stuff too. So it'll be great. You guys will really like it. So keep your eyes open for that. Obviously, I will be keeping you guys up to date on that stuff. And it's something I'd like to do regularly, because I only have to do like a 24-page story, and then you get other guys to help you out, and then we can get it out faster, supposedly, right? Rather than me doing all 64 pages, we got, you know, everybody doing, I'm doing the 24-pager, and then David and Dan are doing shorter stories. And then I've got, you know, like that story, I'm going to run that. And then some preview stuff from some other stuff that'll be in pencils. That'll be really cool. But I shouldn't probably say too much, but I'd like to do more than just the one issue. So hopefully it'll do well enough through the crowdfunding that I can do a second one, and we can get some other guys to contribute, you know, stories in there as well. So it could be cool. And that'll be, and hopefully it'll be turned around quicker, obviously, right? So if this launches in February, which is my plan, you know, hopefully we'll be done by June. Yeah, I would hope by June, and then, you know, get that thing printed and out to you guys in the summer. So we'll see how it goes, but that's what I'm hoping all this will do. So anyway. All right, let's take a look at Frank Miller, since I advertised it, so I guess we should go through with it. All right, so you know, Frank Miller's an interesting dude, because I'm not really a big fan of his artwork per se. I mean, I like his design elements and his storytelling, but he's not a guy that necessarily you go out and say, wow, that guy's the next Dave Stevens. I mean, you look at Dave Stevens stuff because the artwork is, you know, the technical aspects of it is so good. You look at Frank because you're trying to get, you know, cool storytelling, cool design, maybe an emotional response, but it's not, you know, it's not like high illustration. So it's really, I don't know that I have a bunch of favorite Frank Miller covers, but he is an icon, obviously. And so we need to address him anyway. And so the way I picked these covers was, one thing about Frank Miller is he's got a ton of iconic covers. Whether you love his art or not, he has a ton of iconic covers. And so that's how I kind of looked at this. The ones that I think are my favorite, but in terms of their iconography, did I say that right? Something like that. And I might have one or two in there that I just kind of liked. But a lot of these are kind of like, what are his best? Of his famous covers, which ones are his best? It's kind of how I'm looking at it. There's Dale. Hold the phone. Aaron isn't a big fan of something. I feel that there's a tone of mockery in your voice. Okay. That's probably true. I'm trying to remember if I was a grumpy young man and now I'm just a grumpy old man, or if this became a thing once I got older, I became a grumpy old man. I don't know. Anyway, let's take a look at what we got here for old Frank. It seems like anybody who's anybody's always done at least one Moon Knight cover, right? This is kind of cool. You know, again, very designy, you know. I got no problem with this at all. I got noise coming in, excuse me. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. I just like the design of this. I think it's cool. And again, you got the black and white thing going on there, which makes it kind of stark and interesting. And they did like, him and Sienkiewicz did most of these, but these are, they were doing some cool stuff. Look at that splatter, a little ink splatter in there too. So again, nice design. I like this one. Corey Landis says, I suspect you are a moderately grumpy young man. You're probably right. And it's going to be funny. I'm not going to pull up a cover that none of you guys have ever seen before. I mean, that's the interesting about Miller's stuff. It's really iconic. Now, this one just sort of kind of, I mean, literally, figuratively and literally blew me away when I saw it. I was like, what the? I would have liked to see the Punisher not get cut off here, but I know he's trying to keep Daredevil as the central focus right in the middle of the cover. And look, he's got that bullseye behind him, nice little design element, but this is just like a real shocker. You're like, are you kidding me? Daredevil's getting blown away on the cover of his comic like this. And it's the Punisher doing it, so you're kind of like, yeah, makes sense. But there was a nice little story arc in here with the Punisher. This was like, what, 183? So wasn't it like, I don't know, what, 4 issues where the Punisher was in there, and this is kind of right in the middle of it. But again, centralized figures, big centralized figures. Obviously, what's happening really grabs your attention. And you can see he's not to a point where his style is getting rougher, but it's not wonky like it became with Dark Knight. So he's still sort of working in a traditional sense. Speaking of which, let's look at another Daredevil cover. Another famous one. It's a special double-sized issue. Again, very simple cover. You got the big Daredevil image in the background, and then, of course, Elektra and Bullseye fighting in the foreground. A really well-designed cover. Again, you can argue about, well, again, like you said, do I like the way Frank Miller draws or not? It's kind of irrelevant. This is all about design, and I think it very well executed. Victor Shade has a very good point here. He says, I bought that off the rack back in the day. Besides making Daredevil cool, he revamped Kingpin and made Punisher cool again. All this is very true. And I mean, Daredevil was on the verge of being canceled. And so they just let Frank Miller do whatever he wanted with it because they figured out it's going to be canceled. And he just totally saved the book and the character. It's amazing. Okay, this is post Dark Knight, so this would be in the 90s. I always thought this was an interesting book because of the way it was laid out. So it was basically a comic book page turned on its side. Now, this is a very simple cover, yet very striking. You've got the helmet, right? But then you got that 300 in there with all the, the blood splatter and everything. So you're seeing, oh my gosh, there's a Greek or Roman warrior, and there's blood all over the place. Okay, I'm going to pick this up. So again, a very stark, very simple design, and yet very effective. Corey Landis. Funny how many times a nearly canceled book got cool when Marvel just let the creators do whatever they wanted. Well, Simonson was the same way. I'm not saying that Thor was going to get canceled, but certainly was a book that nobody cared about, and Simonson made it the coolest thing in the world. So you had Frank Miller jumping in on Daredevil a little earlier as the artist, but it didn't really take off until he began writing. So you had him and Simonson both sort of at the same time kind of revamping these major characters at Marvel that are these secondary characters that became just, major icons because of the work they did on them. Pretty amazing. Now, this is just one of my personal faves. Of course, I was a Spider-Man reader. Peter Parker, criminal. I just thought this was a cool cover. I like the design of it. Obviously, Spider-Man sells your book. So what do? You put Spider-Man big in the background, you do a color hold on him, and then you got Peter Parker in the foreground because the story is really about him. But you got to sell the book, and that's why you use Spider-Man there. And of course, the bars, the graphic, depiction of the prison cell, the bars. Again, make this a very designy, but very interesting, nice cover. You got that underlighting on Spider-Man. Let's say it looks like he cut some zip on there to get the grays on there. But I think very effective cover. I don't think this is a particularly great cover, but I know it's a particularly famous cover. And so I thought, I'll include it. In fact, when this came out, I bought it. Okay, I had bought the miniseries, right? And I had it. And of course, through making deals to get more expensive books and trading and things like that, I didn't have it. So I recently picked up a new copy of this. Near mint, of course, but not graded. Ungraded, but a nice near mint copy of it. And, this is Frank Miller was really, riding high on Daredevil. And then he did this, and everybody thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be the biggest thing in the world. And it was. I mean, it was a super hot book, and it's still a, sought after collectible book. The thing with these books, of course, is there's just a lot of them out there. So, but demand is still very high for this book, which then drives it to be a collectible book. But this is obviously an iconic and very famous cover, although extremely simple in design. But it just goes to show you, simple sometimes is better. Dumbest Name says, I prefer number 3's cover. They're all sort of on par with each other. I just picked that one because that's probably the most iconic of them, not necessarily because it's the best. Now this is kind of a landmark comic, so I included it. But this is very much Frank. This is his first issue of Daredevil, and just as the artist, he wasn't writing yet. And you can tell he's got kind of a standard Marvel house style going there. Nothing that would make you think Frank Miller, but it's solid. I mean, that's the interesting thing about Frank is because you look at this stuff and you go, well, why? He's not drawing. This doesn't look any different than, a bunch of other artists at the time. So it's like, why was this, why did people take notice when he started drawing Daredevil and go, oh, this is kind of cool? I don't have the exact answer for that, but I would say that the answer is his storytelling, right? And the way that he told the story, the way he laid his pages out were more interesting than just the average comic artist. So even though his drawing style was still within the parameters of what you consider a Marvel house style, his storytelling, much like Simonson's, was innovative and interesting and elevated everything else he was doing. Simonson had his own, and still does, obviously, his own unique drawing style that stood out and was very different than what other people were doing. It wasn't anything like, this kind of Marvel house style, but Simonson did have the great storytelling techniques that were very interesting. And I think that's what Frank Miller brought to this before his style evolved and it became what we, what we're used to seeing from him. All right, we're going to go back and revisit Daredevil with this very iconic Frank Miller cover. Again, the artwork itself is, nothing to write home about. But again, the design and the concept is great. People were so invested in Elektra. It really stunned me when he killed her off. Was not expecting that. And of course, no one ever stays dead. But at the time, you're like, whoa. And so here you have Matt Murdock weeping like a child at the grave of Elektra in the snow. This looks like Janson inked it, but I'm not sure if he did or not. Because I know Klaus was inking the interiors, but I don't know if he was, how much of Frank was like inking his own covers and borrowing the look that Klaus Janson gave him, or if this is actually Klaus Janson inking. I'm sure Marcus Killigrew knows, because I don't see the signatures on here, so I don't know. But I would say that I think Klaus Janson helped define his visual style. Pork Hunt says, do I have thoughts on Marvel bringing Elektra back? Meaning, like originally when they brought her back, or if they've done something recent that I'm unaware of, that I don't pay attention to. If you're talking about the original bringing her back, I'm always kind of, I thought it was a good character, and we got that Sienkiewicz book that Frank Miller wrote and Sienkiewicz drew that was interesting. I remember when that came out, and that was probably like 85 or 86 maybe. And maybe 87. I don't know. When did that Elektra miniseries come out? I liked the character. I liked the design of the character, but I thought it was kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's like whenever you kill a character, even if you don't want him to die, it seems stupid to bring him back. It's like, why kill him in the first place? But I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Miller brought her back. So either he was either asked to do it, or maybe that was his plan all along. I don't know. But I mean, you don't kill good characters and you don't have to worry about bringing them back. There it is. Headless Bourgeoisie said they promised Miller she would stay dead. Should have got it in writing. Yeah. Well, there you go. And was that Sienkiewicz book? Was that a past Elektra story, like it before she died, or was it after she came back? I think it was before she died, right? There you go. Pork Hunt's got the inside story. Miller wasn't happy and refused to work with Marvel for doing so. Okay, there you go. There you go. So Klaus inked all of Miller's DD. In fact, Miller did layouts for Janson to finish by that issue. Yeah, because he was writing, and I think he was more interested in writing than he ever was in drawing. And yes, that miniseries was before she died. That's what I thought, because I hadn't read it in ages, but I started thinking about it going, no, I don't think she was dead yet in that. Okay. Another iconic Daredevil cover right here. I mean, there's more than just a few, but, for our purposes, I'm not going to get too crazy. No More Mr. Nice Guy. Remember, this was part of that Punisher story arc. I'm not sure why he has a cover over the nozzle of, or the barrel of this gun. That looks like there's like a camera lens is what that looks like. But anyway, this is very much depicts the direction that Miller was going, was that Daredevil was basically turned into a crime comic, which I don't mind reading. I don't have any desire to draw. That's why me and Steve Gerber were knocking heads on Sludge all the time, because he wanted to do a crime comic. I wanted to do a monster comic. And I've said this many times before, but so the issues I filled in that I wrote when Gerber didn't produce a script, they were all monster stories. Whenever Gerber, and I would take the crime elements and I'd put them as like subplots to the monster story, but it was a little bit of, so I kept the crime angle that he had introduced. I kept it going, but it was in the background. It was not what I was focusing on. And then he would come back and flip it, and the monster would go in the background, and the crime element would become the forefront of it. So yeah, we had a conversation when we first met, and I was like, oh crap, because I was clear we had two different visions of what the book we wanted the book to be. This I think is pretty cool. Now this is what Frank Miller became. Batman Black and White. This is post Dark Knight, but this is like Sin City Frank Miller. And at this point, I think everybody sort of got used to him and was like, okay, we get what he's doing now. And everybody kind of went along for the ride, because generally speaking, the stories were really good. And they sort of, his style, this kind of, I hate to use gritty because that's not really an artistic term, but it's what we've come, to know this stuff as, is this kind of gritty look, was very apropos to the stories he was writing. If you just do this kind of style in a Captain America story or something, which Frank Miller did do a Captain America story in Marvel Fanfare, but that was prior to this. It was more traditional looking. But it seemed to fit the kind of stories he was writing. So I think everybody just kind of easily went with it. It took me a while to figure it out what he was doing. But then I was okay with it once I got it, Again, very designy, strong central image. And most people think this is the best cover of the Batman, The Dark Knight Returns. And it probably is. The second one's weird, where he's all bunched up, Batman is, and kind of crammed into that cover. It's just weird. 3 is just a bat emblem. But I kind of dig this, and I like the really long spit curl that he gave Superman. In fact, I ripped that off. When I draw Superman, I draw him with a really long spit curl. And this kind of silhouette thing with the cape being, left open, the belt and the cape and the symbol on his chest. But again, just a really simple graphic design, and yet boom. Now this series was red hot. So he could have probably drawn anything and people would have bought it. But this, people were all over this. What's come out? He reinvented himself and Batman at the same time, which is pretty incredible. So he created a whole new legacy for Batman that people have jumped on and haven't turned back from, and created a whole new art style for himself that he went forward with. And everybody just, I remember seeing the covers, like the cover to number 2, where Batman was all bunched up and crinkly looking and weird. And I was like, I talked to a retailer and I was like, man, I don't get this. Why is this so, this art style is just bizarre. I don't understand it. And he was like, you got to read the comic, because if you read the comic, it'll make sense to you. And I said, all right. So I finally bought it and read it. And I was like, yeah, it works. It makes sense with the story he's telling. And just as Boland's, hyper realistic kind of style worked for The Killing Joke, he certainly tailored his style and his stories so that they meshed really, really well. Yeah, Mazzucchelli did really great covers. They looked heavily influenced by Miller. I would agree with both of those sentiments. He was capturing sort of his own version of Miller, more, I don't want to say realistic, but more, proportions were correct, all that kind of stuff, but still in sort of that stark Toth, then Miller-esque style. So, but despite all this, I still think, and I don't have any Sin City covers in here because I don't like any of the covers that well. There's a couple iconic ones in there, but just didn't like them that well. But this has got to be his most famous cover. It's got to be. Again, it's so simple and yet so dramatically effective. And people picked this up without really knowing what they were going to get. This was the first issue. And I got to think that cover was like, what's going on here? Now, Miller had done, great work on Daredevil. He had done the Wolverine miniseries, which Claremont wrote, but he drew. He did the, what was the Samurai book he did for DC, Ronin. And so he had done a lot of stuff leading up to this. So he was a household name, at least in the comic book industry when this came out. But I think stylistically and everything just blew everybody away and changed comics forever, as we like to say, because it's absolutely true. Was Ronin after this? Probably was. I get my 80s mixed up, man. I think stuff like early 80s stuff is really late 80s stuff. Because this was 86, right? So maybe Ronin then was like 88, probably, right? Maybe. I thought he did Ronin first, but he didn't. He did Dark Knight first. He had to have. No, Dale is saying Ronin was before. Okay. So I was right. Ha! Paul Taylor. I was right for a change. So there you go. That's our look at Frank Miller's covers. The stuff he's doing now is, I think the joke's on us. But again, I mean, he would be on the Mount Rushmore of comics. Kirby was definitely there. Frank Miller, definitely there. Probably Neil Adams. But if you're just going for creators, not just artists, because Neil Adams wasn't a writer, artist. But you might put Simonson on there. For writer, artist, I have to think about this. I'm doing this off the top of my head. But Kirby would definitely be on there. Frank Miller those are two guys that absolutely would be on Mount Rushmore of comics. Maybe Eisner. But those two for sure. You can argue about the other two, but I don't think you could argue those two. This is a Desonic, Sick of Desonics, John Byrne, perhaps. But see, that's the thing. You get your four, right? But your two that no one would argue with you is Kirby and Frank Miller, because they just changed the industry so greatly. That's so much impact that they have to be on there. The other two you could argue about all day long, but those two I don't think are. I don't think those you could argue those two. But anyway, there you have it. So, oh, you know what I didn't do? I got to get my crap together because I did not organize my my Bigfoot videos on my desktop, but I'm grabbing them right now. There's like a new flurry of Bigfoot action as the year closes out, which is interesting because you'd think that new Bigfoot material would be in the new year, not at the tail end of the year, but I'm always thankful for content. And I do have some stuff that you guys have not seen, at least on this show before. So now let's get ready. Now that I'm organized, now that I just kind of faked my way through all of that, and let's do this little thing called Before I show you these wonderful videos that will no doubt change your life, please hit the like and subscribe button if you have not done so already. Helps the channel grow so that I can continue to do this. Well, let's face it, I'll probably continue to do it anyway, but it would be helpful to me if you'd like and subscribe. Okay. Yeah, let's see here. Which one of these ridiculous videos are we going to watch first? Oh, okay. Now, let me set the stage here. So this guy, I don't know who these people are, but this dude right here with the mustache is talking about Bigfoot and Bigfoot sightings and this whole thing. And as he's making this video, who do you think appears in the video? Keep your eye on the red circle. This guy's going, yeah, so the Bigfoot legend is that blah, 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 blah. And look at that. Bigfoot walks right behind him as he's talking about Bigfoot. What are the odds? And it's like ghostly Bigfoot. Look at that. He's like sort of see-through. So I got to put it to you guys. Coincidence? I don't think so. Paul Taylor for $10 Canadian. Thank you, Paul. It says, Hail, I was hoping to see Guido Lopresti's dark mustache, but it's gone. Thought Aaron was going through his midlife crisis when I first saw it. You know, that was for, I was dressed up as Bob's from Bob's Burgers, Bob from Bob's Burgers, the animated show, on Halloween night, thus the dark mustache. I also had a wig, and I have not shared the photographs yet because actually my daughter has them, and I don't have them on my phone as of yet to, but I'm going to have her send them to me so that I can share those photos on Graybeards. So there you go. Thank you for the 10. Appreciate it very much. Paul Taylor, who doesn't like black and white comics, but he's going to support my black and white magazine anyway, right, Paul? Right. Yeah, okay, so the problem with this is there's no way that a guy would be talking about Bigfoot and then it would just magically appear behind him, especially one that is transparent. And so we must assume that this was added later. I mean, come on. Even if this wasn't like a guy in the foreground talking about Bigfoot, look at this is horrible. And you know what it looks like? It looks like a guy walking in a costume that they filmed and then put in this video, combined it and, made it ghostly appearing so it would be easier to marry the two. Like, did he just dissolve right through that tree right there? Yeah. I don't know how people can do this stuff and take themselves seriously or expect others to take them seriously. Come on, man. What would Joe Biden say? That's exactly what Joe Biden would say. Come on, man. All right, that's enough of this foolishness. I'm not even going to pretend that that might be real. But here, what is this? Aerial Bigfoot. What does that mean? Oh, okay. Now, perhaps we have something here. Are you ready? This is what we're looking at right here. This guy right here. See Bigfoot right there? Okay. Okay, so does this even match up? Look at this right here. It looks like his left hand is like a big club hand, right? Okay, but watch it right here. So he's very, where did I lose? There you go. Okay. So he's very dark, right? And then we go over here and you see that cut? It's not even the same tree line. Look at that. Boom, it changes trees. And now he's like brownish, reddish. But I will say that he still has that big club hand on his left hand. Is that a shadow or does he have a big old club hand right there? See that? He's like swinging the club hand right there. Okay, so that background looks absolutely fake. Okay. Like they're panning and then the trees change right here. Right. And that looks like that background is actually like cut in, like it doesn't match. And then we go here and boom, then the trees just completely change. The Angela Curry says the lack of trying to make something believable is an insult to my intelligence. I agree. That's why I'm so frustrated every time I do this, and yet I'm compelled to do it. Paul Taylor says this one is cut up, so it's hard to follow. Headless Bourgeoisie says he stole a coconut. You could be onto something there. Humi says these fakes are only going to get worse with AI. Well, the idea is hopefully they'll get better with AI. They'll just become more frequent. Randy Howell says, just leave Kelsey alone, especially when he's communing with nature. Well, that's the thing. You would think they get better with AI, but I don't know if these are AI generated or if they're still like doing it the old fashioned way. Because most of the AI generated Bigfoot stuff I see is like him talking and drinking beer and, kind of done for laughs. Let's take a look at this again, though. I mean, that's just weird right there. That's an edit. And then that's clearly an edit. But the Bigfoot character looks the same. The coloring's different, but he has that big club on his left hand. So there is some consistency there, but I don't know. I'm like you guys. I expect a little bit more than what I'm getting here. But anyway, so will we ever be able to tell if there's a real Bigfoot ever again because of AI? No, but let's be honest. It's all until proven otherwise. I have to believe this is all fakery anyway. So at least hopefully we'll get some good AI videos out of it eventually, but we haven't yet. Okay, now check, speaking of potential AI, or could this actually be the evidence we've finally been looking for to prove the Yeti exists? All right, you ready? Now, allegedly, this guy just saw this walking out on his property and filmed it. Which, of course, begs the question, okay, if you're filming this, why do you have a 3-second clip and then that's it? Why don't we got like I'd be filming this thing for like an hour. If it got too close, I would just back up, you know? And of course, the person that released this is in 2003, or at least it's dated that. But this is clearly AI, right? Is this not what I'm looking at? So now what we can assume is maybe this guy had a piece of film. He put the either made the new date, or to make it look like it was old, so that people would say, well, it's not AI. It was filmed back in 2003. There wasn't AI back then. And then, put AI in there. Or he took a piece of existing film that had nothing on it except the snow, and then he put with the date on there, and then dropped in, this Yeti. And it's funny to listen to, guys describing this video and just gaslighting you, going, oh yeah, but you can see the musculature through the fur. And I'm like, no, you can't. That doesn't look any better than a costume. But I'm pretty sure that's like an AI generated image. Yeah, Custom God wants to know, isn't that at the Bumble? I think it is. Gollum Wolf says the date is easy to add and post. Absolutely. Hands look prosthetic to me. I would agree. There's no finger movement, is there really? I think they look just like big gloves. It can be a camera filter over AI, says Moromi. Leg Kick says not Yeti. Get it? Well, that's the thing. At least it's not too blurry, which is true. But that's now we're going to get more clearer videos probably, because they'll assume that we won't be able to spot the AI. He says he's clutching his Jack Link's jerky. Bigfoot now blurs trees, not just cameras. I know, it's kind of interesting how that works out, right? Oh my goodness. So anyway, apparently there is a Yeti somewhere in North America. Maybe Graham Nolan took this up in Buffalo, and that's kind of what the Chinook looks like in real life, maybe. All right. So this allegedly was taken in the Amazon jungle, which I think is a load of crap, because the voices on this video are speaking English. So these are like tourists allegedly in the Amazon. And, well, you guys tell me what you think here. Okay, do you notice when this cuts right there? Okay, so it goes here, and then boom. See how foggy the background is, and then suddenly how much depth we're getting? I'm wondering now if this is a fake background too. So these guys are like, the voices on the bus are like, get your camera. You see that? You see that? You see that? And you're just like, come on, man. Seriously. In the Amazon? Where are there tour buses in the Amazon where they just drive you through the Amazon? I mean, come on, man. Paul Taylor saying that must be an electric vehicle since Bigfoot didn't run away when he heard. Yeah, so he must not have heard him. A good clue is if at the bottom of the video it says made by Grok. That's going to be the dead giveaway. I have to look for that on every. See right here, it's these quick cuts where the backgrounds don't match that are really annoying me, because it's like, again, can you put some effort into what you're doing? If you expect me to even like take this even remotely seriously, I mean, what is going on here? Okay, boom, it cuts to that. What is that? And so are they telling us there's a swamp ape in the Amazon? Or a, what do you call it? Skunk ape, sorry. I love how Bigfoot is like, starts out in the Northwest of the United States and Canada, and now he's like global. He's everywhere. There's no land bridges for these guys, so that the monkey looks AI generated too, doesn't he? Doesn't it look fake? Gollum Wolf says, never pee in the Amazon River. If you know, you know. Andy Howell says, if I ever stage a Bigfoot video, I'll be carrying a picnic basket. Sequential Treasure saying, well, at least it's not shaky and blurry. Yeah. It's that, I mean, it's a pretty clear shot of tomfoolery and fakery, but this looks like the set of like Land of the Lost, doesn't it? Like the whole thing looks fake. This looks okay here. Like this part right here looks okay. This looks real. The background, I mean. Like that looks real. That looks okay there, right? But then this looks like Sid and Marty Krofft's, Skunk Ape Adventures or something. So I don't know. This is like you get people, they get these tools and they're not really good at using them, but they can use it anyway. And then you get crap like this. I want like really like experienced, good people working on this stuff so I can get a better quality of video. And Leg Kick is defending all this, saying, actually, there are stories of Bigfoot-like creatures all over the world. Stories is what I'd like to emphasize. Kind of a little low on proof. Custom God says, Land of the Lost was fake. Don't ruin my childhood. I'm sorry. F for Execution says, Demoni Dragon. Again, I agree. There's some elements in here that could have made a pretty good video. Once again, poor editing and jamming two backgrounds together that don't match. I tell you. Well, I think with that, now, in case you guys missed this 2 weeks ago, I'm going to show this again because this is actually a pretty good AI video. And the guy says it is AI. And it's kind of like, it's like, just look at what AI can do. Okay, so my understanding of what's happening here is this dude is wearing this suit, okay, with this mask, this rubber mask, right? And then he's running, and then he has AI go in and fix it over the top of him. And then it looks like this. Now, this is smart use of AI because then you're not dropping something in a background that isn't really there, right? You actually are there. And this is right at the spot where the Patterson Gimlin film was shot. And so you run through the woods in your monkey costume and then go and juice it up with AI. Then it's actually still in the actual environment that you shot it in. Or perhaps he took a photo he took a pan of the Patterson-Gimlin film and then AI'd over the top of it, maybe? Although that looks like he's in that environment, doesn't it? Oh, regardless, this is how scary AI is getting, because I think this is pretty good. Oh, that's true. He didn't have the. That's right. There was the Patterson-Gimlin creature had boobs, right? It was supposedly a female. Oh, he's kind of got. And I still think these AI images, these big, are all too monkey looking. They look too much like monkeys. They got to be kind of halfway between monkey and like caveman. They got to be somewhere in that neighborhood. Humi says, Aaron, all you need is a screenshot. Well, yeah, it's shocking to me, but it's amazing. But I've said this before. I do like the possibilities of animation, because obviously most of us, well, it's just all of us, can't afford to go have our own animated film made. But if you could do the drawings, right, and then have the AI do the in-betweens and create, some backgrounds, or, whatever you needed to do, and create a AI movie, you might even have to do that many drawings. And then you basically create an AI animated film. And then you can even do the voices with AI now. You don't even need actors. So I do kind of like that idea, because obviously I just can't go. I mean, I don't want to put actors out of work, and I don't want to put animators out of work. But if the only way I could do it is through AI, I don't really look at it like I'm putting people out of work, because they wouldn't have the work anyway, because I would never be able to afford to do it and pay them to do it. So I'm kind of intrigued by the possibilities of doing something like that. But then, of course, Hollywood would do the same thing. And then you would have people that are out of work, because Hollywood wouldn't want to spend the money. They have the money, but they're not going to spend it, where I don't have the money, so I'm not going to spend it regardless. But anyway, it's something to think about, because I think it's going to be upon us pretty shortly, where those are going to be very realistic possibilities. All right, so there you go. There's our Bigfoot adventures for today. That's going to wrap up the show. We did 2.5 hours again. Sometimes I just think I don't have enough content, and then it just goes, and baby, 2.5 hour show. Of course, it always helps when you have guests, and I want to thank again Mike Barron and Pat Broderick for coming on and sharing some war stories, and of course promoting their Bronze Star 2, which you'll find a link in the description of this video. If you are looking for Wraith of God back issues, if you missed out, you're saying Wraith of God 3 is going to be out soon, I got to catch up, you can get it on my website. You'll find a link in the description of this video that'll take you right there. In fact, this is pretty much what it looks like. When you go to aaronlopresti.com, you will see this. And there's a little section for Empire Comics that keep you updated on what's going on there. My portfolio, if you just want to look at art. And then my blog, which I don't ever do, but I keep thinking I'm going to. But in terms of the spending money option, you just click on the old shop now. And if you go up here to the top, you'll see there's a store feature, all products, prints, books, merchandise, and art for sale, covers, pinups, pages, sketches, illustrations, or view all. So if you're looking at books, you can just click on the books. And these are all the things that you can get on the website or order through the website. Some of these are becoming scarce. I've only got a few Wraith of God Blood Hunters. That's Wraith of God 2. Bisley covers left, just a few. Only got a couple of Kit Carter ash cans left. Got a couple of Graybeard Studio ash cans left. A few hardcovers of Kit Carter left. Decent amount of Wraith of God 1 and 2. These covers anyway. There's a few Garbage Men left, a few Power Cubed, but the supplies are waning. So if you want to get in on these books and you haven't done it yet, check out the website and order while you still can. Also got lots of print options. Now, I'm not saying there's going to be a Freya of the Ice Kingdom bit in Barbaric magazine, but it could be. So, little John Carter piece there, Garbage Man print, some Kit Carter, lots of Kit Carter stuff, Rosie the Riveteer, Wraith of God. That's one of the main cover from the issue, the first printing of the first issue. It's nice. Use that on a t-shirt, use it for a print. It's just a real nice image. Flying, the pig superhero one is always popular. If you're looking for artwork, most of what I got is sketches, and I got a lot of them. Sold a few, sold my Smoking Monsters to Will Holloway, but still plenty of other good stuff on here that are more, that average price range of, $175 to, $300, most in that $200 to $250 range, but got some pages, got some color illustrations, all sorts of different stuff on here. So, like I said, it's the best place to get your back issues. And if you want some original artwork, this is the place, at least from me, this is the place to get it. So check out my website. You'll find a link in the description of this video. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it for today. Thank you very much. Appreciate you joining me and being a part of the fun. Couldn't do it without you. Appreciate all the super chats and the conversation, guys. Nice to have people that like to participate in what's going on. I had a question here from Gollum Wolf. Let me take that real quick for $5. When creating your page, do you keep your panels in the live area or do you go out to the bleed? You keep your panels in the live area. The only thing that goes out to the bleed is if you're doing a full bleed panel or page. Then you got to bleed it completely off to the edge. But everything else you keep in the live art area, the panel stuff. And that's usually a 10 by 15 area, give or take, an eighth or something, depending on who does the blue lines. But yeah, so that your live art area is always, and at least comic book pages are going to be your panel areas. And you want to keep your balloons inside there as well. And I think I got it. Okay, I think I got everything. All right, everybody. Thank you. And we'll see you right here next week on Aaron Live. Good night.
Mr.